Okay, so we just finished comping the rest of that Madeline second verse, and I wanted to now transition into talking about tuning and what my typical workflow is. There are two main tuning programs that I grab for. The obvious one, or not so obvious one, is Melodyne, and then I also kind of want to take a step at looking at auto-tune as well. So Melodyne first, and for those of you that have never seen it before or use it all the time, this will be familiar or not familiar, but here's how I roll with the way I do Melodyne. So first things first, open up the plugin, open on Melodyne, and if you've never used this before, it's pretty straight ahead. You put it first thing on the channel, then you're going to click transfer up here in the top left. I typically like to have again a cycle range going so that it knows where to start and stop, and maybe get a little bit of pickup beforehand, and then click transfer, and we'll take it away.
How can I tell him I'm not in love no more, when I know he won't believe me? All the songs on the radio say you better leave him cold, and I hear them everywhere I go. She took one look at the ring and she couldn't feel a thing. With all the fears tomorrow brings, she asked, could there be something more?
Cool. Okay, so let's look at this. Here are all of the nice blobs, and we're going to go over just basically the main tools that I like to use. Now, first things first, Melodyne does almost always a great job of picking out what key your song is in, although today it's actually inaccurate, and it's because, if we're getting super technical, the way this chord progression works, they do a major 3-chord instead of the typical minor 3-chord, and that's unfortunate for Melodyne. It threw it off. But this song is actually in A flat minor, or the relative major of D flat major. So we're going to go up here and just say D flat major. And people say, okay, well, how do I know what key it's in? I would say, again, if you have a chance to talk to the producers that produce the song, ask them what key it's in. If you can get that information from someone else, or if you have a musician friend that can help you with getting the key, you got to know your key. You got to know what key you're tuning in before you start tuning. I am a musician. I play drums and bass, guitar, and piano, and everything. So I am comfortable figuring out the key myself. But if you are not comfortable, you can't get it wrong. So reach out to whoever you need to reach out to get that information. So we can zoom in here, and the line, okay, not the blobs. This is where everybody kind of gets fooled from time to time, is they look at the blobs more than they're looking at the lines. The line is the voice, okay, as it's moving around here. As you can see, I'm falling around. And the first thing I'll typically do is start playing it back.
How can I tell him?
Okay, and we can see her vibrato here. And what we want to do is, first of all, make sure that there's no parts that are cut weird, or potentially like here, we can see that there's this huge dip, and clearly the note did not stay across this D flat all the way through. It's actually kind of dropping. So we could potentially make another note and kind of slide this down and see how that sounds. But for the most part, these cuts are, from first look okay to me.
How can I tell him I'm not in love no more?
And then you just got to be careful because she's just kind of sliding down into that no more. So another great thing is that you can double click anywhere on the screen and it'll just play it back, just the vocal. So if I double click right here on the Melodyne.
I'm not in love no more.
And that sounds better to me now.
I'm not in love no more.
The next thing I want to talk about, which is perfect that just happened here, is the drift tool. Sorry, we're kind of like going Zoom crazy here. And what we can do is she's kind of drifting a little bit here. And what that does is that kind of will allow you to center out the note. Okay, so if what we see a lot of times with singers is they will a lot of times either rise into a note or they'll kind of, the energy will drop. And that's what a drift tool can help you with, is help kind of get that more centered on the note and not, it's this pitch and yaw type thing. So it's going up in a note or coming down out of a note. And that's, so now we can see that kind of strays straight across that E flat a little bit better. Now as far as pitch wise, that's technically a little more centered, but you know, you got to listen to, use your ears. Don't use your eyes just and say, okay, well, because if you double click on any of these blobs, it'll center it, dead center. But that's not always necessarily going to be the right pitch. Sometimes sounding a little bit sharp, a little bit flat actually sounds better, even as against the acoustic guitar that's being played against. So let's listen again. And let's change that cycle range a little bit.
Him, I'm not in love no more.
Okay, and in this instance, it works. So by centering it dead center, and you can see here, 0 cents up at the top, that sounds great. But if we bring it down a little bit to where it was, and play it back.
Him, I'm not in love no more.
You know, and you can start getting different energies with it. But if we hear it sharp, just for the example.
Him, I'm not in love no more.
It sounds a little sharp. Key command wise, just so you guys know, you can just click and drag from note to note like that. And what's great about Melodyne is that you can get new melodies. You could,
Him, I'm not in love no more.
You know, and it's, if you, obviously it's not the melody that was there, but you can start creating these new melodies. And then the other thing I want to say is if you hold down Option and click, that allows you to slide between notes. So just, and that doesn't matter what DAW you're in, those key commands are always the same. So let's look, here's another example. Here at 63, so let's move this up a little bit.
I know he won't believe me.
And see how it kind of just drops down. So let's look at how we want it.
I know he won't believe. I know he won't believe me.
And I think that wants to be actually an A.
I know he won't believe me.
Yeah. Because again, there's that major against that 3. And then what we can do is adjust that drift. And check this out. The beginning of this note, okay, is pretty much right on line. And then it's the vibrato that starts to fall off the cliff here. So what you can do as well is double click here and then just adjust the drift of that note. So let's go to our drift tool and see if we can get that to center a little bit better.
I know he won't believe me.
Great, and that sounds nice and natural and awesome, and that's what you're looking for. And you go, oh hey, well it's not, look, it's -5 cents. Yeah, but the vibrato keeps it in the middle in a way that sounds natural and great. Okay, and one other thing I wanted to show you guys is the modulation tool. And what that does is this. So let's go back and look at this again, this same vibrato part that we're looking at.
I know he won't believe me.
And we have that really rich vibrato that's happening there. But if, and this is for demonstration purposes, let's say I just wanted to lower that amount of vibrato. And let's say I just said, you know what, it's just a little bit too much for me. With this fabulous modulation tool, I can just kind of bring that vibrato in, and now we hear it like this.
He won't believe me.
And, you know, with the track.
I know he won't believe me.
Which sounds great. And in that instance, I actually would bring this up a little bit.
I know he won't believe me.
Because since it's not as wide of a range of a vibrato, now that pitch starts to matter at the center of that note. It's much smaller. It's a much smaller range. So in that instance, it started to sound flat to me, and that's why we raised the pitch up, and now it sounds.
I know he won't believe me.
I could even push it just a little higher.
I know he won't believe me.
It's nice, and just to, you know, having that vocal sit on top of the note, I think is always the way I typically like to tune. I like that things that sound, you know, like the singer's got their eyebrows up, and that they are, you know, engaged.
I know he won't believe me.
Cool. As far as the rest of these elements that are in Melodyne, the other thing that is really great is the ability to change the gain of a note. So you can see by the blobs, if I click this, I can control how big, how loud, or how soft those notes are saying. Also, Command Z also is an undo, just like anything else in this. Sorry, wrong button there. That is Melodyne in a really small nutshell. Okay, so I want to look also at Auto-Tune, and let's find a part for that.
Better leave him.
Let's look at that pre-chorus for this section.
She took one look at the ring.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do right there. Auto-Tune is by a group called Antares. And here's how this works. First thing you want to know is your input type, which is the top left. And I would say 99% of the time with most female singers, you're going to use soprano. If I have a singer that's doing some really low stuff, like from a female standpoint, I might use alto, but it's something about that soprano algorithm I really, really like. I've even used that on a lot of guys as well. But with her, we're going to use soprano. The next step is to, again, know your key. And again, we are in D flat major. And we can get into relative majors and minors another day. But for me, I always look at things from the relative major point of view. And this song is D flat major. And then we're going to look at the all-important retune speed. Okay? And this is, for example, if we're playing this back.
She took one look.
If you go really, really fast, like to 0, you get the very classic.
She took one look at the ring, and she couldn't feel a thing.
Which, if I was to ever keep that in, I'm pretty sure that both Madeline and Joe would kill me, literally. So, but for certain genres and for certain styles of music, that's the sound. But with this, we are going to use a much gentler retune speed, like super gentle, probably less than 50.
She took one look at the ring, and she couldn't feel a thing.
Because essentially, your goal, well, our goal is to get a great sounding vocal. tuning it's at this stage with auto tune is now a preference. Some people don't want to hear the tuning at all. Some people don't mind it sounding a little tuned because with a big like pop production track, you don't hear it amongst the rest of the instruments. But with this, with an acoustic and a vocal, and with these kind of artists that want to make it sound as natural as possible, we don't want that tuning to get in the way at all. We don't want to be able to hear any kind of tuning. So it would be really, really gentle.
She took one look at the ring and she couldn't feel a thing with all the fears tomorrow brings.
So like for me, that sounds great. And then what you could do, if you are doing this at home or doing this in another studio, is you can kind of start pushing your luck and go, okay, well, 80, I couldn't hear it. So let's go try 61.
She took one look at the ring and she couldn't feel a thing with all the fears tomorrow brings.
And just to go back and take it off completely.
She took one look at the ring and she couldn't feel a thing.
So yeah, it's definitely helping. It's kind of giving her a lift.
She took one look at the ring and she couldn't feel a thing with all the fears tomorrow brings.
But for me, even at which is a relatively slow retune speed, 61, I'm still hearing it a little bit too much, and I'm losing a little bit of the vibe of her. So I'd say like 80, or where was that? Let's hear what 90 sounds like.
She took one look at the ring and she couldn't feel a thing with all the fears tomorrow brings.
And for me, that's probably the best one I've heard yet. And you can see it is tuning, as you can see by the monitor. But this is that's definitely been the best one. Now I want to show you something I think is going to happen because I'm doing the math in my head.
She asked, could there be something more?
Good. So that is exactly what I wanted to have happen and go wrong. That more, again, is not in the key of D flat. It is, it's essentially in, it's just because again that's supposed to be a minor note and it's actually major just because of the chord that they're playing. And so auto-tune freaked. You can see.
Could there be something more?
More. This is the note that they want. So you have a couple options on what you can do. First thing you could do is you go up here and you could put it into chromatic mode. Okay, and what that will do is that you will, let's see how it does.
Could there be something more?
And yeah, even then it's still having an issue with it. Okay, and that note is an A.
Could there be some?
It was in here as removed, so I just unremoved it. Let's try this.
Something more?
And now we're hearing it tune. Now if we go back in here to major, see how the A is not even in the grouping? But in chromatic, that's where you can get in there. Now, the other option that we can try is to mess with the retune. See, if we go to just no retune,
There be something more?
yeah, it's still see how it's still affecting it. So that's just not going to work. You could also automate bypassing, but sometimes I hear clicking with that. So what I would do is this. If I was doing, and again, I probably wouldn't even use auto-tune in this. I would probably just melodyne the whole thing. But if you were just doing it in auto-tune, the workaround would be this. So you keep it at 93, or wherever we were at.
Tomorrow brings.
And then you could go in to your automation. Okay? And we go into auto-tune 8. And we go into, I believe it's under correction style. Or no, it's going to be under scale. Boom. Okay. We can double click. It's in major right now, right? Not console. Yes. So down here in major, And then on that note, that A, let's try this again. We can make a node for it to go to chromatic. And let's keep that A happening. So let's try this. Let's see if it'll do what we're asking it to do.
She asked, could there be something more?
And there you go, buddy. That's how you do it. And make sure you have that A in the clear. And it switches over. And it's
Asked, could there be something more?
And now you can, tune it as you will. So, final thoughts on AutoTune. It is a excellent tuning program. There are so many singers where you can just set it in a nice, gentle setting, and that's all the vocal needs. Melodyne is definitely much more in depth, and is clearly the first grab for most people that are tuning vocals. And one other thing, let's say you don't have these plugins. Let's say you don't have AutoTune or Melodyne just yet. One thing in Logic is that they have their flex pitch, which you can get in and analyze that vocal and then do the editing within there. But again, if you're getting serious about this stuff and you are really starting to edit and tune a lot of vocals, I wouldn't mess around, and I would get at least one of those two, if not both of those tuning plugins, Melodyne and AutoTune. And again, that's what I use. And let's move on. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we kind of clear out those. We've done all that comping, so we're going to get into now printing those comps, and we're going to take our first steps into mixing.